Hello.
Yes, sir. Now you're properly audible.
Okay. Can I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please. Okay.
Hello everyone. I will continue. Sorry for some audio disturbances. So as I said, carcinogenesis is actually the process by which tumor is formed in body. So it has four basic parts. One is molecular basis, means what exactly is going wrong at the gene levels, and then if there are mutations in the genes, what are the different mechanisms leading to these mutations, or we can say what are different etiological factors. So that we broadly categorize into three, that is chemical carcinogenesis, physical carcinogenesis, and biological carcinogenesis. So one thing we have to remember is carcinogenesis is basically outcome of multiple mutations that occur at different times in a cell. They go on accumulating, but not in the same cell. So one mutation has occurred in a cell. Now that cell will multiply and the progeny will carry that mutation. It becomes stable. After some time, those progeny cells will get a second mutation, and now they will further multiply to stabilize now two mutations, and so on. So that's why we say that it is a non-lethal genetic damage, which is multi-hit process, means not in one go all mutations will occur, but from one cell the process started and slowly it is forming newer and newer progeny. Now that's why we say that tumors are monoclonal. Why? Because the mother cell was single where the first mutation occurred. Then the further progenies are accumulating more and more mutations. And this can be simplified when you say that, for example, in multiple myeloma, we say they are plasma cell disorders, cancer of plasma cell. So one plasma cell became neoplastic, it starts multiplying. So naturally, it will form only one kind of immunoglobulin. So in such case, if we do serum electrophoresis, what we will find is one of the immunoglobulin is in very high levels. While if it is a normal plasma cell proliferation which is not neoplastic, I will get increase in more than one type of immunoglobulins. In myometrium in females, we say that female have two X chromosomes, one come from father, other come from mother. Now, they will have a mosaic, means some of the myocytes will have father X chromosome activated, some will have mother, because one gets inactivated. We need only one X chromosome for majority of the functions in body. But when the same myometrium forms a tumor, then all the tumor cells will have either a paternal X chromosome or maternal, but not both. That is how we say that a leiomyoma, which is a benign tumor of myometrium of uterus, all cells are monoclonal, carrying one of the X chromosome but not both of them. So that is what I said, that carcinogenesis is always a multi-step process. So it involves multiple generations of cells. Okay. So the mutations keep on accumulating. But what is the most important thumb rule? The cell should not die, it should multiply. Whenever a cell multiplies and completes mitosis, whatever mutation has occurred during mitosis becomes stable. So that's why this is very important to understand. And second thing is, it is a multi-hit. So the mutations will keep on occurring. That's why I said last time also that as we grow old, we have more chances of getting tumors. Why? Because the mutations are accumulating slowly in our cells. Ultimately, we get a genetically and phenotypically transformed cell that has features of malignancy, and it can have excessive growth, as well as most important is it should have the capacity to invade, and it should cause distant metastasis. That is what we say that a tumor has a very characteristic feature when it is a malignant tumor. So the best characteristic feature of a malignant tumor is capacity to spread. So this can be seen by this simple diagram as we start with a single normal cell, Now this cell gets first mutation. The cell starts proliferating, but still phenotypically means morphologically it appears normal. When it is proliferating, this next progeny acquires a second mutation. Now the cells begins to proliferate at a faster rate, but still morphologically it simulates the cell of origin. With further multiplication, it acquires a third mutation, and now it starts showing changes of dysplasia. So now it is changing its nuclear cytoplasmic ratio, it is getting more of chromatin, there is anisonucleosis and so on. Now the fourth generation, it comes with further mutation. So now what has happened? Over a time period, multiple mutations have gathered in this cell. Though it started with one cell, but now this is the fourth generation of that cell. So finally, we get a transformed cell, and now it is completely neoplastic. And from here, the tumor will arise. So now let us come to the genes which actually regulate all this oncogenesis. Now we know that, suppose I ask you that you need to grow a plant. So what all things you will need? So you'll naturally say that we need seeds, we need a proper soil, we need water, then we need some kind of fertilizers. So same thing will occur with our human cells. So when we say that a cell is going to multiply, then there have to be a particular set of genes which will monitor multiplication of cells. And when I say that a tumor is nothing but proliferation of abnormal cells, so mostly the genes related to cell proliferation will come in action. So now what I need is mutations of these genes. So broadly we classify the genes which are mutated in a tumor into four categories. So the first category, that is growth promoting proto-oncogenes. So what do you mean by this? These are normal growth promoting genes. Always remember, there's nothing like a normal oncogene. So God has not given a single oncogene, mean a gene causing tumor in our body. What we have are absolutely normal genes related to cell cycle and cell proliferation. When they mutate, then they become oncogenes. That's why growth promoting proto-oncogenes, basically these are dominant kind of genes, and when they mutate, then you call them oncogenes. Now physiology, what we have learned, for every action there is a reaction, or for every action there is inhibition. So accordingly, if I have some genes which are going to stimulate a cell to multiply, at the same time I will have some genes which will suppress the growth or growth inhibitors. So why we need this counterbalance? That is needed because I need a fine balance so that a particular size of organ is reached and no more the cells are multiplying, or some part is lost, it has to be replaced. So I need both kind of genes to regulate a normal physiology of cell multiplication. So that's why the second group of genes, that are growth inhibiting or tumor suppressor genes, normally what they do, they inactivate cell proliferation. So these are recessive genes. What we understand by that, there's a pair of genes, and unless both are mutated, they will not show their effect. So what has God done? The check regulation, means the one which can inhibit, it has given us two checkpoints. So a single gene mutates, still it will have the inhibition effect. So we need mutation of both the alleles so that they no more are inhibiting cell growth, and now the proto-oncogenes are free to act and they will start multiplying the cell at a faster rate. The third group of genes, that are genes that regulate programmed cell death or apoptosis. Now we know that we are all mortal, means we are going to die one day. So what is the mechanism in a cell which will regulate this? Is apoptosis, physiological death of cells. So when should a cell die physiologically? Naturally, when it has an assault or it has an injury which is not viable with life or which is not normal. So when there is any major mutation in the DNA which is not normal, the surrounding environment and the cell itself has a programming that it will force the cell to undergo apoptosis, means it should die. Why? Because it is abnormal. It is not needed by the body. Now, the genes which are regulating this mechanism, if they get mutated, what will happen? Now they are allowing an abnormal cell to live. It is not forced for a physiological death. So in such scenario, the cell will start multiplying. That's why apoptosis is, you can say, a natural check in the body which doesn't allow anything abnormal to survive or multiply. The last and most important is genes involved in DNA repair. Now we know that with daily our exposure to all kinds of pollutants or chemicals or radiations and all, or even fatty food for that matter, lot of free radicals, they are generated in the cell. And what do these free radicals do? They damage our DNA, means basically they damage the genes. So damage to gene is a continuous process occurring in our body lifelong. But we have DNA repair genes present in our DNA. So what they do, the moment they sense that there is some mutation or some damage to a part of a DNA or genes, they will first and foremost stop the DNA from multiplication. So once it stops from multiplication, it now gets a chance to repair the damage. So if they repair it successfully, they will send a signal to our apoptotic genes that they will not force the cell to undergo apoptosis. But if they fail to repair it, then they will send a signal to these apoptotic genes that, okay, now the damage is irreparable, so the cell may be put into apoptosis phase. So I hope you get a basic concept that we have 4 different kind of genes. So each one has multiple genes. It is not a single thing, okay? So there are multiple genes, and these genes will keep on mutating at different levels, and they will serve a different purpose in the oncogenesis. So let us see this in a flow chart. So we start with a normal cell. Now what happens? In a lifetime, these our cells are facing DNA damage because of chemicals or radiations or viruses. But as I said, if our DNA repair genes are intact, normal, they are not mutated, they will damage this repair. They will repair the damage to the DNA. So the cell again becomes normal and it starts proliferating. But if they fail to do so, so when it should occur, this may occur especially when genetically we have some defect in the DNA repair genes, like we saw in xeroderma pigmentosa or ataxia telangiectasia or Bloom syndrome, all were recessive disorders related to DNA repair genes. So both the alleles are mutated. So now my cell has no capacity of repairing the damage. And as I said, the damage is a continuous process. So in such case, the chances of acquiring mutation and accumulating will be much higher compared to normal population. So these people will get tumors at much early age. So that's why the mutation now becomes a part of that somatic cell, and it will be further supported with additional mutations in growth promoting oncogenes, then in genes which are growth inhibitors, and genes which are related with apoptosis. So now multiple mutations will accumulate in a cell, and now what the cell will do? The cell will get a support of other factors that will start multiplying. So now the clonal expansion starts, and finally we get a neoplasm. So once I say that the cell has become neoplastic, it should acquire particular functions so that it will form a proper mass and it will metastasize. So what are those functions the cell should acquire? So first and foremost is it should become self-sufficient in growth signals. What does that mean? No more it require external stimulus to multiply. In short, we are saying the cell will form its own growth factors, growth receptors, so it becomes autonomous. Second is, if some inhibitory factors are coming or secreted by surrounding tissues, it won't respond to it. So it becomes insensitive to anti-growth agents coming from outside signals. Then When it starts multiplying, it will get a capacity to invade the tissue and lead to metastasis. Third thing is, it should acquire a limitless replicative potential. What does that mean? If you go in mythology, what mythology says? We all come with fixed number of breaths at birth. In a sense, it is true. In a sense, it is wrong. Why? Because actually, there's a biological clock in our cells which is pre-decided. Means, let us take an example. I say there is an osteocyte. So in a lifetime, how many times osteocyte can multiply before it undergoes apoptosis? Let us say it multiplies for 50 times or 100 times. Beyond that, it will undergo apoptosis. And that is the reason why we get senile degenerative changes in our body. We say that till the age of 25, our anabolism is much more than catabolism. But after 25, the tissues start aging process. So till 25, body has more replicative capacity. But beyond that, slowly, the number of cell cycles have reached to its maximum limit. So now they will undergo degenerative changes. So the tumor cell evades this system, means they become immortal. How we will see it later. Then what is most important, though they are multiplying, they need food. So if they can generate their own blood vessels, definitely they will survive. But if they can't generate, then what will happen? They will start getting necrosed. That's why angiogenesis is essentially equal important for a tumor to proliferate and be progressive. And last and most important, that now the body knows that this cell is abnormal. The mutation is not needed. It is not with the physiology of the surrounding tissue. So ideally it should die. It should undergo apoptosis. But now what the tumor cell has acquired, it has undergone mutations of the genes which were regulating apoptosis. So it is no more obeying the commands and it evades the process of apoptosis. So once a cell acquires all these functions, now it becomes like a parasite. It starts multiplying to form a big mass. So there's an excessive autonomous growth. So the proto-oncogenes, they mutate and they convert into oncogenes. These oncogenes are nothing but basically growth promoting genes. So now they're proliferating the cells which we call cancer cells. So they lack the normal growth pattern. They will proliferate at a fast rate. So normally, if I say that I want mutation in a growth promoting gene, what I'm expecting is overactivation of that gene. It should not get suppressed, it should be overactivated. So what are the different mechanisms by which these genes undergo mutations? That is through point mutation, for example in RAS gene, or translocation classically seen in chronic myeloid leukemia, you call it Philadelphia chromosome. Translocation seen in Burkitt's lymphoma, or there can be gene amplification or sometimes inversions. So these are four most common type of mutations that are occurring in growth promoting proto-oncogenes by which they convert into oncogenes. So they are point mutations, translocations, inversions, and gene amplifications. So what is an oncogene? As I said, a mutation in a normal proto-oncogene is called oncogene. So please mind well, we saw four different categories of genes: growth promoting proto-oncogenes, growth inhibiting tumor suppressor genes, genes regulating apoptosis, and genes for DNA repair. Of all these four groups, only the first group are called oncogenes when they get mutated. So what are these genes? These genes are of 5 different categories. These genes, they are related with growth factors, growth factor receptors, signal transduction proteins, nuclear regulatory proteins, and cell cycle regulators. Means what we have learned in anatomy, what are genes? Genes are basically software programming of our cell. So when a gene transcripts, it will form a product. Now this product can be a growth factor, it can be a receptor, it can be a transduction protein, It can be a nuclear regulatory protein, or it may be a cell cycle regulator like cyclins. So now, if it is normal, it is going to cause normal effect on a cell. But now it has come from a mutated gene. So the product is now called a oncoprotein. The normal is a protein, but because it is coming by transcription of a oncogene, now I call it a oncoprotein. So activation of these oncogenes I have already explained. The modes of activation are like point mutation, very commonly seen with RAS gene. So these are some of the names of genes. We don't need to mug up them, just for understanding point. Commonly seen with pancreatic adenocarcinomas. Then chromosomal rearrangement like translocations or inversions. So Philadelphia chromosome is a classic example of translocation between 9 and 22 chromosome. So there is exchange of the arms between these two chromosomes, a part of that arms, and it forms a new hybrid gene, that is ABL-BCR. So that is called a Philadelphia chromosome. Gene amplification means the structure of gene is normal, but the copies of gene have increased. So now I say that one gene produced 5 growth factors. So if instead of one gene, I have now 10 genes because of amplification, the product will be 50. So the amount of protein will increase, though the structure of protein is normal. So that is typically seen with MYC gene in neuroblastomas, ERB genes in breast cancers. So now let us see this translocation. If you can see this image 1, there are two different chromosomes. So one is 9, one is 22. They are depicted with different colors. So part of this 9 has broken, and 22 together they have formed a new chromosome having a mixture of both the chromosomal genes. So part have translocated. So they have reversed their positions. So one part has gone to 9, the other part has reached to the 22. So such kind of translocations or inversions, where the two parts of the same chromosome, they have just exchanged their positions. So they have not changed between two chromosomes, but with the same chromosome, they have changed their positions in the arm. So that is inversion. Now such kind of chromosomal changes are most commonly seen with lymphomas and leukemias, and in some of the solid tumors also. So we don't need to, again same thing, don't be pressurized with a long list. This is just to give an example that how translocations are very common in hematolymphoid malignancies. So you can see there is a lot of categories of CML, then acute leukemias, and Burkitt lymphomas, mantle cells. So the first bracket has the two chromosomes which have changed the parts of their arms. So like 922 in CML, 4 and 11 chromosome in AML, 8 and 14 in Burkitt lymphoma, and so on. Then the second bracket shows which arm. So we have a short arm and a long arm in a chromosome, which are depicted by P and Q. So these are Q arms. Then again, you will have a number beyond that, like 34 and 11. What does it mean? It is a region and sub-region where it has broken, and which part has translocated and attached to the other chromosome. So you will see that in hematological malignancies, translocations are very common. So let us take the classic example of Philadelphia chromosome. So here is a 9, chromosome number 9, and chromosome number 22. Okay. Now if you see the structure of these chromosomes, they are not of equal length and size. They are variable. So what is happening? A part of this chromosome at 9 is breaking, and a part of chromosome number 22 is breaking. They come and fuse together and form a new hybrid gene. So a location of ABL from 9 and BCR from 22, they come together to form a new gene, that is ABL-BCR hybrid gene. Okay. Now what does this new gene does? It secretes a lot of tyrosine kinase enzyme, and this particular enzymes blocks the cell maturation. So if the cell maturation is blocked, what will happen? You are not allowing the cell to mature, and this is occurring in a myeloblast and a promyelocyte. Now in the series of myeloblast, we know that there's a myeloblast, promyelocyte, myelocyte, metamyelocyte till neutrophil. But the cell having a capacity to multiply are only the first two, that is myeloblast and promyelocyte. Now if I don't allow it to convert into myelocyte, what will happen? It will start proliferating. And when it will start multiplying, forming n number of cells, that is when it will go into chronic myeloid leukemia. Now this is another example where the number of genes have increased. So instead of, we know normally we have two alleles of genes. Now if there are more number of copies of these genes because of amplification, their product will multiply. So whatever protein they form, it will be in the concentration in multiplication of number of copies of the genes. So gene amplification is also very common with oncogenes or growth promoting genes. Now let us understand this by a normal steps in a cell proliferation. If you understand this slide, it will be much easier to understand the further concept that what these genes do. So what we started with growth promoting proto-oncogenes. Okay, so what they normally do, they regulate these 5 different kind of steps in cell proliferation. So first is growth factor. So I say that particular set of genes are producing growth factors, right? This growth factor comes and binds to a growth factor receptor on a cell membrane. So now this is second set of genes which are producing these receptors. Okay, once they bind this, they will send a signal from the cell membrane to the nucleus, and this is a signal transduction. So now the third kind of protein came into action. So transduction is sending a signal from one part of cell to another part of cell, changing the media. Once the signal comes to the nucleus, so the nuclear regulating proteins, again a next set of gene which is secreting these proteins, they get activated, they start secreting nuclear regulatory proteins. They will stimulate our DNA, and now the cell cycle regulator, that is the fifth level of genes, will get activated. The cyclins and cyclin dependent kinases will get activated, and the cell will go into cell cycle, and that will finally lead to multiplication of the cell. So this is absolutely normal steps in a cell multiplication. So now if I say there is mutation at any of the level of these genes, what will happen? That mutated gene will produce excess of the proteins, forcing the cell to continuously multiply. So let us start with these 5 different kind of genes. So let me remind again, we are dealing with growth promoting proto-oncogenes. So the first group of genes is those which secrete growth factors. So now when there's a mutation in growth factor genes, this is a cell, and there's activation of oncogene coding for a growth factor. So now the cell has started producing a lot of growth factor, and this growth factor are acting on the cell itself. So what has happened? There's excess of growth factor now available to act on the limited number of growth receptors on the cell. So there's a continuous stimulation of the growth receptors which are normal. So what is abnormal here? The amount of growth factor. So it is now forcing the growth receptor to be continuously stimulated. So signal transduction proteins will be forming excess. So they continuously send signals to the nucleus. Now this compels the cell to go in n number of proliferation without going in resting phase. Now this is classically seen with the factors like platelet derived growth factor or transforming growth factor or fibroblastic growth factors. Let us come to the second level of genes, genes which actually produce growth factor receptors. So now here there's a mutation of the genes in a tumor cell which are regulating growth factor receptor formation. So what will happen? The factors are now formed in excess. Okay, the growth factor is in limited amount, but receptors are increase in number. And what they will do? these receptors will bind to each and every molecule of growth factor available. So now the cell is getting multiple stimuli in one go to the nucleus to multiply. So the effect is same, and that is classically seen with ERB1 in squamous cell carcinoma, ERB2 in carcinomas of lung, breast and stomach. So what is going wrong with these genes? They are basically genes regulating growth factor receptors, and when they mutate, they will form excess of factor receptors. Let us now see the third category of genes. Now what are these genes? We saw two genes, one forming growth factors, second forming growth receptors. Now the third are from cell membrane, which send a signal to the nucleus, that are called transduction proteins. So the classic example of transduction protein gene is a RAS gene. You will come across this gene in each and every system till you finish your MBBS. Okay, so these RAS genes, normally what happens, one growth factor comes, binds a receptor for some time and stimulate the RAS gene for a small time. It sends an impulse or a signal to the nucleus and the growth receptor is no more active. But I say that there's a mutation in this RAS gene. The problem is, once it is mutated, it is continuously stimulated. Though the stimulus was given just once by the growth factor, but because the mutated RAS is present on the cell membrane, by a single stimulus, it is getting activated for a long period. It is continuously sending signals to the nucleus. It starts again multiplying. So these are two classic examples. One is RAS gene. One we have already seen, that is BCR ABL hybrid gene in CML and ALL. While RAS gene mutation are very common with carcinomas of colon, lung, pancreas. Coming to the next set of genes. So now these genes are within the nucleus. They are secreting nuclear regulatory molecules. Okay, so we have now different set of genes which regulate the nuclear proliferation by secreting some kind of molecules. So now I expect a mutation in these genes. What they will do? Now your growth receptor is normal, your growth factor is normal, your cell membrane transduction is normal, but now the abnormality lies within the nucleus itself. So the nuclear regulatory molecules are secreted in excess. Action remains same. They stimulate the DNA to multiply. So that is classically seen with MYC gene. When it is normal, I call it MYC gene. The moment it gets mutated, I will call it MYC oncogene. So that is classically seen with carcinomas of lung and colon. So let us now understand this whole process by this diagram from Robbins. So there's a growth factor. It came and bound to a growth receptor, right? This growth receptor send a signal to the transduction gene, that is RAS gene. This RAS gene gets activated, and what it does, it converts GDP to GTP. Now this is activated RAS, which sends a signal through MAP kinase pathway to the nucleus. So once it has sent the signal, when it is normal, it will again get hydrolysis of GTP to GDP, phosphate is released and it gets inactivated. But I say now there is a mutation of this RAS. What will happen? This path of inactivation of RAS is blocked. So the GTP is not converting again into GDP. So though the growth factor came once, it stimulated the receptor only once, the RAS is continuously stimulated, sending continuous signal to the nucleus. So a single growth factor made the nucleus to multiply n number of times utilizing the mutated RAS. So now these are some of the examples. Again, same thing. This is just to tell you how the things go. So when you say a proto-oncogene means what? It is a normal gene. So different 5 categories we have seen. We will see some of these examples. So the first category was of growth factors. Okay. So when they get activated or mutated, then they become oncogene. So the mode of activation, like first one is platelet derived growth factor beta chain. The proto-oncogene responsible for this growth factor is SIS. There is overexpression seen with astrocytomas, that is brain tumors. Let us take second example like fibroblast growth factors, HST1 gene, again overexpressed, seen in stomach cancers, and so on. The second category of genes were growth factor receptor genes, right? So let us see now example of growth factor receptors. So if they are normal, they are proto-oncogenes like ERB, B1. When it will get mutated because of overexpression, it will lead to formation of tumor like squamous cell carcinomas or gliomas. Then ERB-B2, it will undergo amplification seen in breast cancers and so on. Let us see the third category of such genes. So now the third category is signal transduction proteins. So if it is normal, it is proto-oncogene. If it mutates, so what are the mechanism of mutations? Like you will see most of them are point mutations or translocations and their associated tumors. So RAS we have already seen. What was RAS? RAS is a signal transduction protein. So the gene is called KRAS, for example. If it undergoes mutation, it is generally point mutation. And what it will do now? It will continuously stimulate the nucleus, and this is commonly seen with solid organ tumors. Second example is ABL. We have already seen, that is seen in CML. Then BRAF mutation. Again, it is a kind of signal transduction mutation caused by point mutation seen in melanomas. Coming to next category, that is nuclear regulatory proteins. So what we are dealing with all growth promoting proto-oncogenes. They mutate by either translocations, amplifications, point mutations, or inversions. And when they mutate, you call them oncogenes. And their secretory proteins are called oncoproteins. And they will result into different kinds of cancers. So MYC gene is a very classic example of nuclear regulatory proteins. So you will see there are different kind of MYC genes like CMYC, NMYC, or LMYC, leading to different kind of tumors like lymphomas or neuroblastomas or small cell carcinomas. So coming to next, that is the last category of genes. So they are cell cycle regulatory proteins. So these genes will come last in action. So the first gene to act is a growth factor, second was growth factor receptor, third was our signal transduction protein genes, then came nuclear regulatory proteins, and now the nucleus has finally decided to divide. So the cell will go in a cell cycle. Now we have already seen cell cycle in physiology and anatomy. You have different phases of cell cycle which are regulated by different kind of proteins. So definitely there are different set of genes which will secrete these proteins, right? So these are called cyclins and cyclin dependent kinases. So some of this will inhibit the cell cycle, some will promote the cell cycle. So when I say it is a growth promoter gene, what I want? More activation of that gene. I say it is a growth inhibitor gene, I want deactivation of that gene so that the cells can multiply. So we have different checkpoints of cell cycle in our body. That is, first check is between G1 to S phase. So what does this check does? It actually checks whether the DNA is normal so that the cell can be allowed to multiply, or there's a DNA damage. If there's a damage, what it will do? It will stop the multiplication, stimulate your DNA repair genes. They will repair the DNA. It becomes normal. Then it will allow the cell to multiply so that the progeny is not carrying any mutation. If the DNA repair genes, they fail to repair it, they will stimulate your apoptotic genes, giving a signal that the cell is abnormal, it should die. Okay. Then the second step of check is from G2 to M phase. M stands for mitosis, when the actual mitosis or DNA replication occurs. Again it checks. So we have two spell checkers for our DNA, that whether it is normal and whether the process of multiplication is occurring normal. If it says signs, or if it senses there is abnormality, it will stop the cell and put it back to G0 phase, that is resting phase. Okay. So if now there is mutation of the genes producing these proteins, cyclins and CDKs, which can have this check effect on the cell, then definitely what we have defects in the checkpoints. So we call it genetic instability. So this is achieved by overexpression of cyclin Ds, which are seen with breast and liver cancers, amplification of cyclin D dependent kinase 4, which is seen with glioblastomas and sarcomas. So let us see the normal cell cycle. Now this, each one of you have seen in anatomy and physiology, that G0 is the resting phase of a cell. When there's a stimulus, means a growth factor comes and binds to the cell receptor, a signal goes to the nucleus that the cell should now multiply, right? So the cell enters into G1 phase. So that is a growth phase. What happens in G1 phase? Now the cell cytoplasm will accumulate, or it will start producing more and more cell organelles, so that the organelles can be given to both the two cells, which will be the final result after mitosis, right? So we will start accumulating ribosomes, mitochondria, and so on. At the same time, the DNA also has to now go in the process of multiplication. So now the cell it is ready with all its cytoplasmic organelles. It will go in the S phase. Now S phase is the DNA synthesis phase. So the DNA will start accumulating all the things needed to multiply. And once it is ready for that, the cell will go in the G2 phase, that is growth and preparation for mitosis. Beyond this phase, there is no comeback. So if the cell goes in a G2, again there is a final check that if everything is normal, then only it will allow the cell to actually undergo mitosis or division. Because after this, two cells are going to be produced. That's why the two checks, first one and the second one, are very important. That if there's a mutation and that is catch by our DNA repair genes, they will block the cell right in the G1 phase, won't allow it to go in S phase. If this escape, then from S phase it comes to G2, again there's a second check. Again it will check the DNA. If it finds it abnormal, it won't allow it to multiply. It will force it to undergo apoptosis. But now unfortunately the gene regulating apoptosis has undergone mutation. Now it can't stop or force it to undergo apoptosis. It will go in mitosis, and now we get two cells which are carrying that mutated gene. They have become stable now. Okay, and they acquire further mutation. They keep the cell, force the cell to undergo cell cycle. Last few slides for today. So now we saw the first category of genes that were tumor growth promoting proto-oncogenes. What was the nature of these genes? They are dominant genes. Means even if one gene becomes mutated, it will start expressing an abnormal oncoprotein, which will result into formation of either abnormal growth factor or growth factor receptor or transduction protein, nuclear regulatory protein, or cell cycle regulator. So 5 different categories of these proteins. Now God is great. With every step of an action in our body, we have a counteraction. So if I have 5 different categories of growth promoting genes, equally I have 5 different categories of growth inhibiting genes, okay, which are also called as tumor suppressor genes. So in growth promoting genes, what we were expecting? Overactivation of a gene, so a tumor can occur. But in tumor suppressor genes, what I want? Inactivation. What is the normal action of these genes? They don't allow a cell to multiply. Now the tumor cell wants to multiply. So what it is wishing? It wishes that the tumor suppressor genes should get inactivated. So whenever there's a mutation of growth inhibitory genes, that means tumor suppressor genes, we say that the genes are inactivated. No more they are functioning normal. So if they are inactivated, they are allowing the growth promoting genes to act without any inhibition. So in a way, they are helping the growth promoting oncogenes. So the abnormal growth continues unchecked. Okay, it is like removing a guard. Suppose you have an entry in a mall, right? You know that there is some kind of checking, so you cannot carry a weapon. Now, no more there's a guard standing. So you have removed the inhibition. People can easily walk in into the mall with a weapon, right? So same thing is occurring in the tumor, that the guard means the tumor suppressor genes are no more active. So the growth promoting genes will be overactive and they will force the cell to multiply n number of times, right? That's why these genes are recessive kind of genes. Means even if one gene is normal, it will still have the inhibition effect. So both genes have to be mutated before the inhibition is lost. That's why the check is twice while promotion is just once. So these are similar examples of tumor suppressor genes. So at every step, right from cell surface, plasma membrane, cytoskeleton, cytosol, nucleus. So these are, you can say, complementary to the all steps of oncogenes. So these are suppressor genes at the same levels, means growth factor receptor, transduction, then yeah, nuclear factors and cell regulators. So if you see, the genes are slightly different, the names are different, like NF1 neurofibromatosis, or APC gene, or RB gene, that is called retinoblastoma gene, or P53 gene, Wilms tumor gene, that is VT1, BRCA gene, classic 1 and 2 in carcinoma of breast. So here the set of genes are different, okay? And what we expect for tumor suppressor genes, when they mutate, they should get inactivated. So let us take a very classic example of tumor suppressor gene, RB gene. Though the gene name is retinoblastoma gene, this single gene mutation, you can see it leads to multiple tumors in body. So it can lead to retinoblastoma, it can lead to osteosarcomas, glioblastomas, breast carcinomas, bladder carcinomas, small cell lung carcinoma. So though the name is retinoblastoma, where it is strongly associated, but a single gene mutation of a tumor suppressor gene is leading to multiple tumors in the body. So today we have learned about two different sets of genes. So the first set was growth promoter proto-oncogenes. The second set was growth inhibiting tumor suppressor genes. The first set of genes are dominant genes. The second set of genes were recessive genes. The first of set of genes, I want them to be overactive. So that's why they undergo point mutations, amplifications, inversions. The second set of genes, I want them to be inactivated. Okay, so they can even be deleted. But deletion will not be useful in growth promoters, because if the gene is lost, the protein won't be produced. I hope I am clear. This is a bit complex issue, but you will understand it bit by bit. So today we have just seen two genes. Next lecture we will proceed with the further three sets of genes. So for today, that's all. Thank you for your patient hearing.
So shall we proceed for the quiz?
I think we can.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, put the first question, please. Please give the polling option little later so that students can read it completely.
I think there's a bit confusion, so I
Yes, sir.
should clarify one by one. Okay. See, the question is everything is seen in carcinogenesis except means what is not seen. Okay. And what I started, a tumor starts from a single cell, right? So that's why they are always monoclonal expansion. So that is seen, right? Then there is no single mutation. There are multiple mutations which keep on occurring in successive progenies. So it is always a multi-hit process. And multiple generations of cells are involved before it actually evolves as a neoplastic cell. But what is most important in this whole process, the cell should not die. So no mutation should be such which will kill the cell. So if there's a lethal mutation, means a mutation which will kill the cell, it can't form a tumor. So answer has to be C. That is, lethal mutation will not be seen in carcinogenesis, right? It will not allow it to form a tumor. I hope I am clear. We can go to next question. Yeah.
Okay,
So
sir.
most of you have got it correct. So we can proceed next. Okay, there is a bit confusion just between last two options. So as I said, what are oncogenes? Basically, oncogenes are activated growth promoting proto-oncogenes undergone mutation, right? So what if a gene is a growth promoter? What I want, it should be more activated. So if it is deleted, it can't have its action. But if it is amplified, the action will be exaggerated, right? So the question was except means which thing should not occur. So it cannot be deleted. Okay. Rest all are the modes by which it is overactivated. So the answer is D, deletion. Next one, please. Yeah, most of them have got it correct. We can move to next. Yeah, again majority are correct. We can go to next. Yeah, most of them got it correct.
Uh, okay, sir, I think this is a very beautiful session you have taken. It is a very difficult topic and very, very confusing, I feel, especially for the
Yeah, yeah,
MBBS students. And I think you have explained each and everything very precisely, clearing all doubts and MCQs. I hope that all students have been benefited by this session. And if I don't see any queries today, if
yeah.
anybody has any queries, please write it in the chat box or we'll end the meeting. So we'll wait for 5 more minutes, sir.
Either they have understood or they have not understood at all.
Okay, so you can give your feedbacks. I feel there are no doubts. So either you have all
Okay,
understood
okay.
it properly, I'll think in the positive way. I feel
There are two, yeah, two possibilities when there is so much of silence. Either you have understood or yeah, it has gone beyond your head. Anyways, but I try to simplify as possible. Yeah.
yes, sir, it was very simple and you have made it very simple, I feel. It was a good revision for all of us. Okay, the students will
Okay,
start the
thank you.
timing.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
And we are really sorry for a little delay for the session today.
Yeah.
So people have understood. They are typing now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We'll end the meeting now.
Yeah, yeah.